Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Yoli Show. This is the show where I talk about everything marketing, past and present, and the tools, tactics, and technologies that I am obsessed with. And this episode, I'm actually just going to take a walk back through memory lane and pay a little, I would say, homage to an industry that is much maligned and in some cases rightly so. But from a professional standpoint, it is an industry that I always have kept my eye on right from the inception of the World Wide Web, at least the commercialized World Wide Web as I've known it. And I have literally been there since the beginning. And so this is an industry that I've never worked with, but I came very close. And actually, I will tell my story about it. But it is an industry that I always keep my eye on because I believe they actually have propelled most of the innovation in digital marketing. And if you want to understand what's going to be happening in the next 10 to 15 years in terms of advertising, business models in AR or VR, or how blockchain will be leveraged and to sort of advance what's happening now in terms of storage, streaming, media, this is the industry that's probably going to figure it out first. They've had tremendous impact in multiple industries, and I'm going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. So before I get into this episode, I do want to preface that all the opinions shared on my show are those of my own. They do not represent my employers or any organizations that I'm affiliated with. If there's any sensitivity to the industry that I mention, my apologies up front, but it is just my belief and my experience that I am sharing with you. So I've always wanted to do a post on this topic, and it's really about the influence of the adult industry in technology innovation, particularly on the internet and particularly on digital marketing. And so I'm going to share a few things over the years that I've noticed because I basically have been a participant in digital marketing since the inception, actually since before digital marketing began. So I do recall, as I've mentioned a few times in some of my past posts, I do recall actually before banners were clickable, before there was such a thing as email marketing, actually having to put together a business case study for the organization that I was working for, which was a retailer. They had 500 stores, and I had to put a pitch together for why we should put the flyer on the World Wide Web. This was before there were such things as digital billboards. And I remember actually clicking on the first digital billboard as the first digital billboard became a clickable banner. But regardless of all the innovations in digital marketing, what I have observed is that before they become commercialized mainstream disciplines, you'll typically find that the adult industry has already been employing that discipline. And so I'm going to attempt to share some of the innovations that the adult industry has pioneered. So guys, in the 80s, the internet was frequented by four types of people: government officials, university students, tech geeks like me, and adult content seekers. According to The Guardian, the online adult industry has its roots in the bulletin board systems, BBS, that evolved separately from the internet in the 1980s. I remember those. They gave way to the use of the Usenet, news groups, and free FTP file transfer protocol with a format for exchanging files over the internet. users talked about things that they had on BBSs and then the news groups and then traded the files online. Do you remember that? I remember that. So the earliest adult content sites on the net were FTP sites, run free from college campuses, especially MIT for some reason. That's what some have said. All the free sites, which got shut down under the sort of escalating traffic load in the 1993 to 1994 region. Of course, they were all rampant copyright violations, and lots of people stopped carrying the news groups because of the huge amounts of bandwidth and storage space they required. So why does this matter? Why is this important? Well, the early sex sites needed to respond quickly to massive use because when a server went down and lost traffic, that meant lost revenue. Although not necessarily credited with inventing these technologies, the adult webmasters were the first to figure out how to put them to profitable use. As the businesses became more sophisticated, the online adult content industry had an accelerated course in the pitfalls of making money on the web. Overloaded servers, difficulties with video streaming technology, credit card processing, all the problems that web businesses struggle with today were handled by adult webmasters. And I remember witnessing this. Technical challenges like video streaming and keeping a server live when you've got tons of traffic weren't the only innovations that early adult webmasters had. They were also quickly learning how to, activate traffic and profitability, optimization. Two of the other developments in use today, pay-per-click banner ads and real-time credit card processing, the heart of many content sites were developed by these early adult webmasters. So, I had been watching and living through this and always made a point of watching the gambling and adult industry because what they do always foreshadows what will happen in the mainstream. You want to be innovative and have an edge in business and in marketing, just watch those two industries and you'll always be ahead of the game. Anyway, so imagine my shock when one year I was approached by one of the multi-billion-dollar players in that industry for a CMO role. It was 2011, and they used a recruiting firm, and the company had a respectable parent company name that I wasn't first able to sort of connect the dots to. But they reached out, and I agreed to have a meeting. So the recruiter set me up with a meeting with the CIO and the CEO of this huge adult company. The adult industry was really facing a zillion existential threats. This is an industry that search engines had stopped allowing paid search. The organic search had restrictions. The social media channels didn't allow advertising. The tube sites, they were taking this industry's content, original content, and streaming it for free. And the industry could not do takedowns fast enough for copyright infringement. So you couldn't even get apps into the App Store. So they were the first to figure out how to do things like bypass the App Store and stream on devices like the iPad, literally the day after it launched. Anyway, I ended up having a great conversation with them, and I told them that I couldn't work for them, but I would be open to doing some consulting work, essentially brainstorm on a blueprint for survival. I won't share all the ideas, but one I remember telling them was that the actors were the key. Seeing them as partners and their following as part of your go-to-market strategy. It was similar to what I had learned at points.com. People get obsessed with collecting certain points, they become loyal to, X loyalty program. So at points.com, we had marketed through those programs. In the same way, the production houses needed to rethink how they worked with the actors. Social media was key. Instagram had launched the year before, and though the industry couldn't advertise on social media, you could scale reach without advertising. So before the Instagram model and the influencer marketing as we know it today, well, that's the story of how I almost worked with the porn industry. That was one of the ideas that I remember we brainstormed about. I got an offer from Microsoft for the third time and decided to take that instead. I got so close to working with these geniuses. Anyway, according to Complex magazine, here are the 9 or 10 ways that the adult industry has moved technology forward. So number 1, VHS versus Betamax War. Adult content was only available on cassette during the 70s, with adult films making up over 50% of videotape sales in the US, 80% in Germany and Great Britain. There were some famous ones, I won't even name them, that were bestsellers. Fast forward to the 90s, adult content continues to change the media format landscape by accounting for nearly 90% of the DVD video market share. So number 1, they settled the VHS versus Betamax wars. So number 2 is ASCII, ASCII, adult content becoming a stepping stone for digital imaging. When the World Wide Web was non-existent, ASCII adult content was regarded as the world's first internet pornography. The character encoded format became popular due to its high compatibility with most computers, simple rendering, and the transferability via network protocols and email. ASCII art would go on to inspire advancements in graphics design and computer imaging. It's good to know. So number 3, the adult industry broadened the cable TV market. Before companies like Time Warner racked up subscriptions solely on the basis of carrying sort of XXX rated channels like Playboy and the Spice Network, there was the Manhattan Public Access Cable. They were a provider in the 70s that managed to increase subscriptions from 100,000 to 300,000 after airing 2 seasons of an adult program. I won't tell you what that program was. And then in 1999, DirecTV sources disclosed the revenue of customers who bought adult movies, estimating up to $150 million spent by 8 million subscribers. And so really the adult industry ushered in high-speed connectivity, and Penthouse magazine, for example, was ahead of the curve in the 90s when it began distributing what do they call it, 2400 baud modems to its readers so they could have faster access to the company's XXX rated bulletin boards. In October 2000, the New York Times reported that nearly 20% of AT&T's broadband consumers were watching real live American adult content online, paying $10 per view. Cable. So number 4 is live chat video conferencing. Before Skype, Tango, or iChat, back in the day, adult sites were the only places where you could engage in any form of real-time interaction. Adult domains allowed users to view live feed of a person and engage communication through a webcam. Sound familiar? Well, you have that industry to thank. So online payment systems, we take them entirely for granted. I remember working at PayPal at the time when we had to spend tons educating people about using their credit card online and why PayPal was a viable system to use in e-commerce. Millions spent in educating folks around that industry. Meanwhile, the adult industry years before had actually pioneered the use of online payment systems. So we have them to thank about that as well. You know, every major retailer really owes some gratitude to Richard Gordon, the founder of electronic card systems. You know, in the mid 90s, Gordon's credit card transaction system introduced online payments and provided services to top adult content sites. You know, statistics gathered by Forrester Research indicated that nearly $1.3 billion was spent on internet adult content in 1999, with the industry generating close to $2.8 billion by 2006. It is astronomically more today. So the next area that the adult industry innovated in was they were streaming pioneers. Patchen Bars, the author of Erotic Engine, claims that Dutch adult company Red Light District created the first workable internet-based video streaming system in 1994, setting the mold for CNN's online service 1 year later and YouTube a decade after. Digital adult actor and founder of Danny's Hard Drive, Danny Ash, said that the adult entertainment industry was the first to use streaming JPEG push video, and it was video that worked in the browser and did not require a plugin. So they innovated and pioneered in the streaming space. So the next area is quite obvious, the digital rights management systems that we take for granted today. You know, once digital piracy developed into a pandemic, adult companies started investing in digital rights management software to protect content. Developers, Playa Solutions, built a program that would bring up a payment screen to view videos or inform users that they could gain access to clips by watching ads. So all that gated content, those paywalls, all of those mechanisms first originated in the adult industry. So I saved the best for last because the last innovation is my favorite marketing tactics that is near and dear to my heart because it's the first type of marketing I did in the 90s. My first gig for a technology company was building an affiliate program. So affiliate marketing is quite often credited as an invention to Jeff Bezos of Amazon, but that is not exactly right. So legend has it Jeff Bezos, CEO and founder of Amazon, chatted with a woman at a cocktail party about how she wanted to sell books on divorce on her website. After that exchange, Bezos pondered the idea and thought about having the woman link her site to Amazon.com and receive a commission on the book sales. Apparently, this was the impetus for creating the first web Amazon.com Associates program. Well, the only problem is that way before Jeff patented the affiliate technology in 2000, you know, they announced that they had been granted a patent which had been filed, I believe, in 1997. But way before 1997, there had been quite a few affiliate programs. So their affiliate programs like PCFlowersandGifts.com, which was in October of 1994, AutoWeb.com in 1995, KBKids.com and BrainPlay in 1996, ePage in 1996. And before them, you guessed it, the adult industry had been pioneering things like referral rings and affiliate marketing, essentially, before any of those mainstream e-commerce sites had been doing affiliate marketing. And so there's so many more innovations, and you can look at what's happening in the AR and VR space. You can bet your bottom dollar that they've already figured out how they're going to monetize the AR and VR space. In fact, they have already, that particular company, I looked into them to see where they're at. They're one of the few companies that have survived sort of the change in buying behavior in that industry and have migrated into the AR and VR space and are, of course, figuring it out. What you'll find if you look back throughout history, way right back to the Gutenberg innovation with the printing press, the adult industry is the first to figure out how to commercialize any new medium. So, you want to figure out what is actually going to be adopted by mainstream consumers in the blockchain space? Check that space out. You want to fight me on this? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Look into it. I find it interesting. I find both the adult and the gambling industry, because of the constraints, which is usually from where innovation is driven out. You find innovation in technology and marketing. Have a great week. What you waiting for? I see you standing there.